did want to take the opportunity of this visit to Hobart to present to Colin McEwen for deposit in the Noel Butler Archives Centre some records that I've had in my custody for the last, how many years? Since the 1960s anyway. It must be over 50 years. You all know, I think, or should know, that the ASA grew out of the Archives section of the Library Association of Australia. And I was very active in that. I was editor of Archives and Manuscripts for some 15 years, in fact. And during that time, I accumulated a lot of papers which belonged to the Archives section, relating to Archives and Manuscripts and relating to all those things that the Archives section was involved in. And I've got them all together now, and I'm handing them over to Colleen sometime tomorrow. But I did want to just make a tribute. I'm making a tribute to people who have now passed away. But when you look at these archives, you realise there's a tremendous amount of initiative that some of our forebears put into the development of an archives society in this country. And perhaps the most amazing one of those was a woman who didn't want to call herself an archivist. She was a librarian. She was Phyllis Amanda Jones. We honour her memory nowadays in the awards for publications. And if you ever read these archives, which I'm going to give to Colin, if you ever read these, you'll see that she took the initiative to get something going in this country. And it's admirable that she did. Actually, she wanted to call it the Archives and Manuscripts section of the Library Association of Australia. That would have been a bit of a mouthful. And other people, of course, whom you will remember, David Roberts' uncle, Ian McLean, Alan Horton, who's now passed away, of course, Gerald Fisher, Jim Gibney. There were just so many of them. I think I'm the only one that managed to survive until the year 2015. But I do want to assure you that we all remember the forefathers of our profession in Australia, honour them for what they did, and we are glad to be standing in their footsteps, in their shadows, and carrying on the work of what is, I believe, a very important association. Thank you.
Bob, what at the beginning, what made you become a foundation member? What made you join the Australian Society of Archivists?
Well, I've been very active indeed in the predecessor organisation. There was an archives section of the Library Association of Australia, and I had been the editor of the journal, Archives and Manuscripts, and I'd been secretary of that archives section on and off for about 10 years. And so when there was a possibility of there being an Australian Society of Archivists, I made arrangements for the Library Association to allow us to transfer the journal to the new society. And I remained as editor.
What did you hope the society would achieve?
Well, I hope to receive some recognition for archivists. There were so many librarians, and almost, not all, but most of the librarians, most of the archives organisations were subject to control by librarians. And I wanted a separate profession for archivists, and that's what we got, of course.
How do you think the society has fared over the years?
It's gone up and down. It's had some very difficult times, I think, financially, but I don't know much about that. But mostly it's grown, and it's certainly growing at the moment, as people are becoming more aware of archives through things like that series on SBS you may have seen, Who Do You Think You Are? Because of that, people have realised that there are sources available to find out who their ancestors were, how they came to Australia, and so on. And so that's increased interest in archives to quite a large extent.
What would you like to see the society do in the future?
I'd like it to establish a very definitely and well-established permanent paid staff. I think it's important to have at least 2 or 3 officers who devote all their time to the society and for not to be dependent upon the voluntary efforts of people who have other jobs and who are supposed to be occupying their time devoted to other jobs. I want to see a few specialist members of the staff keep it running. I think that's the way the Library Association's gone, and I think the Society of Archivists should do the same thing.
What has being an archivist meant for you personally, and what would you say to young people contemplating a career that maybe haven't made up their mind yet?
I think the key to archives, the usefulness of archives, is accountability. Could be government accountability, or it could be accountability within an individual firm or organisation. Archives should be properly presented and preserved so that people can find out exactly what has happened in the past. And if there are inquiries being held about whether someone played havoc with the funds or, went off on trips to the Gold Coast with all the funds or anything like that, it should be possible for records to be preserved and accessed, which will enable people to find out what's happened and to make organisations and governments more accountable. And that's what I've always hoped would be achieved through archives.
And for you personally, what's it meant for you?
Well, I'm a Tasmanian by birth, and though I lived 50 years on the mainland, and come back to Tasmania in my old age, I was really concerned that the record of what happened in Tasmania should be preserved. So many early Tasmanian records went off to the mainland in the Mitchell Library and other libraries, and so much was in danger of being lost. So I was very glad to see that I could take some part in preserving records of the past, so people can find out exactly what happened in Tasmanian history.
Thank you very much, Bob.